And now it's Boomer Life. Lifestyle ideas designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is Boomer Life.
Welcome back to the program. Today, we're talking about seniors' independent living with the folks from Shannon Oaks and Baptist Housing in East Vancouver. Shannon Oaks, by the way, is located at 2526 Waverly Avenue, right near Killarney Secondary. 49th and Elliott would be the closest intersection. Right. There's a light at Elliott, too, isn't there?
There is a light at Elliott.
Yeah, I just drove past there a couple of days ago.
Oh, good. You should come in.
Well, I'm coming. I'm going to stiff you for lunch here,
Good. Go for it.
Don't doubt about that part, because that's something that I wanted to talk to you about, because it mentioned just during the break. Last time Gillian was with us on Boomer Life, we talked a lot about downsizing.
That's right.
And you, in fact, have had downsizing specialists accompany you to previous meetings here on Boomer Life.
Yes, we have.
So downsizing is something that happens before anyone moves into a retirement community.
That's correct.
Divesting oneself of all that stuff.
That can be the stuff that holds people in their homes.
That's true.
I don't know what to do with it. How can I begin?
Right. And that serves in those initial interviews, many of which get conducted in your office. That serves for some as an excuse of convenience not to really think much more about a retirement community.
That's right.
I couldn't possibly give up my stuff.
It's the roadblock.
That's right.
It's the great roadblock in there.
Right.
So they're not going to move because of that.
Right. But downsizing it happens to a lot of people, usually by choice.
Yes.
And some of the people that you've had introduced us to are just wonderful experts at getting through that very difficult and very emotional phase.
Exactly. And we have had seminars, and we will continue to have seminars, a number of them a year, throughout the year.
Right.
We invite people in. Anybody from the public can come in. Just get a hold of me at Shannon Oaks, and I will put you on the list and invite you to the seminar. We usually make it around lunch or something, and then we have an expert come in and talk about downsizing, how to do it, what to do, how you separate things out, where they go, how to begin the process.
Sure, absolutely.
Just starting that process.
Now, I know you had one of those seminars within the last couple of weeks.
So
there'll be another one coming up within the next couple of months.
That's correct.
So if anyone listening right now is sort of on the cusp of that big decision, or is perhaps related to someone who should be thinking about this, a lifestyle option, the downsizing is going to be a monumental challenge, and anything you can learn about that process is to the advantage of all parties.
That's correct. And they just need to get in touch with me, and I will be happy to put them on the list.
So it's a free seminar, and lunch will be served possibly afterwards?
Yes, definitely.
And by the way, if you need to get a hold of Sharon or Gillian or anyone at Shannon Oaks, a couple of options. You can go, the website is the best place, because all that contact us stuff is right there.
Yeah.
And BaptistHousing.org is the website for Shannon Oaks. It's all of the Baptist Housing properties in British Columbia.
Correct.
So you go to Baptist Housing, and you get a chance to see the work that this organization does, not only here in Vancouver, but in Kelowna, on Vancouver Island, and then you click on the property that you'd like to investigate in detail.
Shannon Oaks, Vancouver.
Right, Shannon Oaks. Or you can just pick up the phone and call Gillian at 604-324-6257.
That's correct.
And but all that information, in case you didn't have a chance to write it down, and there won't be a test in 5 minutes, but it's all on the website at baptisthousing.org, and then click on Shannon Oaks. Back with us also is Sharon Ginter, activity manager at Shannon Oaks. We talked about this terrific study that the gerontology folks up at SFU are doing, and you have lots of willing volunteers at Shannon Oaks. Wii bowling is one of the physical activities that are being measured, but it's also about the social part, isn't it? Sure, the physical stuff is great. It keeps good for the circulation, good for the mind, but it's just good for everything, because you're mixing it up and laughing it up with other folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So just being social, and we were talking earlier about all our bus trips and stuff that we do too.
The group outings.
And, we've got a bus, and it holds 20 residents, and they're loving going on those trips. And I think one of the neat things is a few weeks ago we went up to Trolls. and a lot of residents haven't.
Out of Horseshoe Bay?
Horseshoe Bay.
I haven't been there forever in a day.
It was wonderful. And they had their fish and chips, which they love their fish and chips.
I'm partial to the chowder myself. But
It was wonderful.
Great food, yeah.
And it was a beautiful drive, so they're just getting out. But the neat thing on the bus is the chatter.
Right.
They're talking, and all of a sudden you're realizing that the two men sitting in front of me had never met. They live in the same building, but they had never met. And they'd both been there, one for years and one for months.
How interesting is that?
And you know what? We don't realize it because we have two sittings at meal times, at lunch and dinner, two seatings. Someone will say, oh, I don't know that person because they're in the first seating or vice versa.
Oh, okay.
Or they're in the West Wing or something.
Right.
So getting together for either an entertainer or for any of the fitness classes, but especially on the bus because you're usually going from to and from. You know, you're sitting there for maybe an hour. Sometimes we go out to the valley, so it's a long trip.
Sure.
And the social aspect. And then Laura, our driver, she'll put on the tape, and then all of a sudden they're all singing. Mm-hmm. So you get those good oldies on and stuff like that. So
great.
it's a lot of fun. You're not sitting on the bus. It's not quiet. It's social. It's great. So it's really neat to do.
And Gillian, you were talking a few minutes ago about your friend Mary.
Yes.
Who was a very, very social creature.
Very social.
And Mary's life began to diminish. Her quality of life began to deteriorate because of her inability to circulate. Some of her friends had passed away. Some of them were physically incapable of getting out to join her for lunch or come over for tea or whatever. And so as those restrictions increase, all the more reason for companionship. And she, of course, now lives at Shannon Oaks, and she's the beneficiary of all of this. But really, what a dramatic change in life. And you're just thinking, listening to Sharon talk about the gang on the bus and people meeting each other for the first time who'd been essentially roommates for months. So it's the social interaction. And when you're talking to people, seniors and their boomer kids who come to see you at Shannon Oaks investigating seniors' retirement living, alienation and isolation of the senior are in many cases the reason we boomers end up in your office in the first place.
That's correct. And they're worried because mom is isolating herself. Mom is sitting at home not wanting to go out, or dad. And it's really a source of anxiety for the adult children. And so we are trying to encourage people to come out and participate in things, very much so. Staying at home is a good thing to a degree, because the government is trying to encourage us to stay at home.
Absolutely. We've touched on this before. Elaborate a little on this.
Well, they're saying stay at home will bring the services to you.
We're talking now the BC government, right?
BC government,
okay.
That's correct. Your provincial government.
Right.
So the health authority will come in and they will bring a person in maybe for a couple of hours, maybe an hour, 3 times a week, once a day, whatever is necessary. But they will help you bathe, dress, or whatever has to be done.
Right.
Give you pills, make sure you're taking your pills. That's fine. But what does the senior do for the rest of the day?
Right.
What does the senior do in the evening? What does the senior do when there's nobody there? They will turn on the television. Mm-hmm. Is that your interaction? Their quality of life is diminished, as Mary's was diminishing.
Sure, yeah.
Diminishing, getting lower
and
lower.
Well, the sort of circle just closing in on her kind of thing.
And health-wise...
But she was smart enough because she went to you and said, help.
Yeah, well, she knew what industry I was into.
Yeah, right. No, but
she knows.
But
yes.
that's called being proactive.
She was very proactive, and it's usually the adult children that are proactive ones. And mom has to be sort of leveraged out of the home. Mm-hmm. But as with Mary, why didn't I do it sooner?
Right.
Look what is all available to me, not only in the exercise programs and the social interaction, but the good food I'm getting, all of that. It's been proven. I mean, if you have a good, healthy social interaction, that is so important to my my physical well-being, my mental well-being, my spiritual well-being.
Absolutely.
All of that.
If you have an active social life, you're going to be a more active person on all fronts.
Absolutely.
Aren't you?
And the government bringing those services, and that's great. That's wonderful. But can my 85-year-old, 80-year-old mother relate to a 20-year-old
Right.
for an hour a day? What things do they have in common? What can we talk about? There's barriers there. How much better for that my mother to 85 years old to talk to somebody who is it from their generation, who has had the same life experience,
Right.
who understands what it was like to go through the Depression or the later war years or whatever. So they understand that they can relate it. Like Sharon's Horseshoe Bay person. She was saying that she found a picture of when years ago she'd been with her husband.
This is for the trip to Trolls you went on. Okay.
I mean, that's kind of thing that enlivens that person.
They get excited about it.
Well, tell us the story, because
Yeah.
this is one of the people, one of the 20 on the bus.
On the bus,
Right.
She just kind of took it all in. It was a beautiful day, and she was just taking everything in. And so on the way home, she was talking about that she hadn't been there for years, like 20, 30 years.
That's what
to
I said a
Horseshoe
few minutes
Bay.
ago, too.
And it's like, wow. So we brought her back to something she used to have.
Sure.
So she was so excited about it that later on that day, she runs down walks down, I guess, with a picture of her and her husband leaning against this boat in Horseshoe Bay. And she knew exactly where the picture was, what it was about, and it was a memory. And she could bring back that memory by just getting out on the bus.
It rejuvenates the memory, rejuvenates the life you used to have.
Right.
She's sharing it with other people.
Well, and
so
it's hard to do because, obviously her husband is no longer with us, and, it's a kind of a bittersweet memory, but she chooses to remember the positives about that.
Sweetness.
Exactly, the sweet parts.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened if she was at home alone.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And
Not
she
at all.
probably on the bus was telling all the people sitting around her about it, and so that's the neat thing about it.
Our guests from Baptist Housing in Shannon Oaks in East Vancouver, Gillian Fullerton and Sharon Ginter. I'm Sterling Fox. You're listening to Boomer Life on AM 650, and we'll be right back.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on AM 650.